I was wrong about Donald Trump. In 2016, I didn't vote for Trump. He said a lot of things I wanted to hear from a candidate, but honestly, I didn't think he would be any different than a Jeb Bush or a Mitt Romney. I was pretty sure of that, and I was done voting for those types of Republicans. But I was wrong. Every now and then I see comments on my videos from people who say that Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin. And in 2016, I believed that. And that was certainly true about Mitt Romney in 2012, John McCain in 2008, and George W. Bush before them. The two parties postured a lot, they insulted each other publicly, but they were essentially two peas in a pod. A great example is this video from 2015 where then Speaker of the House John Boehner and former Vice President Joe Biden are having a conversation before the State of the Union address.
Hey, I'm one of those barbarians.
You are, but you're at the gate, man. We're at the gate.
How are you?
How are you, pal?
I'm all right.
At a Labor Day parade in Pittsburgh, Joe said that members of the labor movement were the only ones that could keep the barbarians at the gate, referring to Republicans, of course. And that was the highest-ranking Republican at the time, joking around about it as if it was just a game. Because it kind of was. They were all a part of the club, and it didn't matter so much who was in charge, they were all living the good life. A lot of you are wondering why Hillary hasn't been arrested yet. She deleted over 30,000 emails and smashed all her phones with hammers. She approved the plan to tie Trump to Russian interference that the Obama administration helped her carry out. So why hasn't she been charged with anything? Or James Clapper, or John Brennan, or Barack Obama, or Joe Biden? I get it. It's frustrating. But you have to understand just how deep the swamp is. It's most of Washington, D.C. And not just the elected politicians. There are over 430 departments, agencies, and sub-agencies in the federal government. And they're mostly made up of swamp creatures. A lot of the state and local governments are pretty swampy too. And of course, the mainstream media are deep in the marsh. At this point, Trump is just a hiccup to how the quagmire runs. He's only had 4 years to do anything, with the swamp doing everything they can to stop him. And why wouldn't they? They've been living high on the hog for decades. Trump is an outsider with no reason to abuse his power. He was able to live a life far more extravagant than they have without needing to abuse the power of the state to pull it off. The swamp is so deep that George W. Bush has now come out in support of Joe Biden. Biden was a part of an administration and a party that called him a racist and blamed him for the Great Recession. They said he deregulated the market and that led to the economic crisis. Of course, there is irrefutable evidence that proves that wasn't the case, but Democrats still won that political battle, which led to an Obama presidency. Check this out.
They claim to be free market advocates when it's really an anything-goes mentality. No regulation, no supervision, no discipline.
In addition to our important oversight role in this committee, I hope that we will move swiftly to create a new regulatory structure for Fannie Mae, for Freddie Mac, and the Federal Home Loan Banks.
The analysis makes clear that more resources must be brought to bear to ensure the highest standards of conduct are not only required, but more importantly, they are actually met.
And we heard the Secretary and the Chairman tell us that this was a once-in-100-year phenomenon. This fiscal crisis was so drastic. Certainly once in 50 years, probably once in 100 years. And how did it sneak up on us so silently, almost on little cat's feet?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have a crisis at Freddie Mac, and in particular at Fannie Mae, under the outstanding leadership of Mr. Frank Reign.
There's been nothing that was indicated that's wrong, with Fannie Mae. Freddie Mac has come up on its own, and the question that then presents is the competence that your agency has with reference to deciding and regulating these GSEs. And so I wish I could sit here and say that I'm not upset with you, but I am very upset.
Democrats were actually the ones who didn't want more regulation. They just made up the narrative that it was the president's fault. Bush should still be angry that Democrats got away with blaming him for that. But he's not. Why? Because it's all just part of the game they play in the DC swamp. And that's why he's on Team Biden now. He doesn't want to see any of his friends get taken down. They hate Donald Trump because he's calling out their corruption. And they hate him because he's actually doing the things they promised America they would do. You see, both Democrats and Republicans used to say that they would move our embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, but Trump actually did it. Both sides said they were going to defeat terrorism, but Trump's actually doing it, without getting us into another war, I might add. Both sides would promise to stop illegal immigration, and now Democrats are fighting hard to stop Trump from stopping it. Both sides would say they stand for the Constitution, but Trump actually put constitutionalist judges on the courts. And both sides would talk about investing in minority communities, but Trump actually did it with opportunity zones and economic policies that saw the lowest black unemployment in history. Think about this. They tell us that Trump cut taxes for the rich, but then why do the rich mostly support Joe Biden? Why do the big banks support Biden? What's funny is that the narrative they're pushing is that these big banks care more about social justice, equality, and the Constitution than getting rich. Check out this quote from a Politico article talking about why the banks support Biden over Trump. Quote, "These contributions speak to the deep unease Democrats and many independents have with national policy on personal priorities such as equality, civility, and constitutionality," said Federal Financial Analytics Managing Partner Karen Petru, who advises bank executives on policy. Unquote. Democrats have been in the streets for months burning down buildings, looting stores, and shutting down freeways. But yeah, these rich bankers are going to vote for Joe Biden because Trump and the Republicans don't prioritize civility. And many governors, mostly Democrats, have forced businesses closed, issued shelter-in-place orders, and even threatened to turn off power and water to businesses who don't obey their orders, but we're supposed to believe that multi-millionaire investment bankers are worried about the Constitution, so they support Joe. The truth is actually really easy to understand. These banks are a part of the swamp. They help the politicians write the rules that keep them rich and powerful while the middle class keeps footing the bill. I mean, does anyone really believe that the big banks overwhelmingly support Biden because they want equality? Seriously? The left went from Occupy Wall Street to teaming up with Wall Street in less than a decade. It's amazing how powerful a narrative can be. Now, how many times have you heard a political ad say Washington's broken, only for that politician to go to Washington and do nothing to change it? What we've seen the swamp do to Trump, comparing him to Hitler and accusing him of being a Russian spy, is what happens when someone actually tries to change Washington. Democrats and Republicans are like two rival teams playing in a corrupt sports league. Trump came in to change the league, and that's why you see the George Bush and Mitt Romney types supporting Biden. As long as politicians were playing by swamp rules, they all did well, even if their team wasn't winning. In 2016, I was done with the swamp, and I thought Trump would just become another swamp creature. But I was wrong. As flawed as he is, Donald Trump is our only chance to start exposing the corruption that we all know has been rampant in Washington for a long time. And that will eventually get this country back into the hands of the American people. And that's the simple truth. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to become a supporting member of Blue Collar Logic, click on the link in the description and give what you can.